Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Brokers Open podcast. I'm Dr. Ben Spears, the Doctor of Flow. I'm here as usual with the big guy, Matt Bai. How's it going, Matt?
Doing absolutely fantastic, Dr. Ben. I love your background. For those of you that get to see his background, right? He's escaped the studio and he's running around in the wild right now. So I love it.
Yeah, I am visiting family back in Kentucky, so I'm up in the Appalachian Mountains. So super excited to be here for sure.
Yeah.
I'm super excited for our guest to be here also. So I want to make sure that we bring him into the conversation as quickly as possible. We have the CEO, the owner of US Lead List and real estate investor, Micah Nicholes. How you doing, Michael?
I'm
Micah?
great. Yeah, thanks so much for having me, guys. I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Guys, before we get started, go down, check all the links in the description below and take advantage of some of the free stuff that we've got for you to enjoy and help you grow your real estate business. Micah, so I'm imagining that you were fishing, right? You were like 5 years old and you were fishing and you hooked into a big one, and halfway between reeling it in, you're like, you know what? I think I want to do real estate investing the rest of my life. Is that kind of how all this started, or a little bit off?
That sounds about all great things. It's like you're fishing, you're doing something that you like, your brain is, you're just in that flow state. And all of a sudden you're like, there it is. There,
Mhm.
that's what I'm gonna do. That's not how this worked out for me, but similar. I was like grinding. I was a real young dad. I had three kids when I was, let's see, 22, 24, 26. And I was just grinding. I went to the School of Hard Knocks and learned a lot of that. I literally had probably a dozen different businesses and close to that many jobs. And at the end of that, maybe about 12 years ago, man, I should just buy some real estate. And kind of the situation, the market was still rough, especially where I was still, and bought my first investment properties and scaled up from there. And so it was more of a solution, and then it ended up being the answer to just the financial hardships. Because I'm a little bit more about me. I'm one of seven kids. We grew up and we were poor as dirt. Anything that I had to work for it or figure out a way to get it. And so it was that pursuit of trying to get what I want that I stumbled into real estate, and I find it very hard to leave.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I love that so much. I love those types of stories. How about you, Matt?
Yeah, absolutely. And so where are you at on the scale of 1 to 7, man? You the first one, you the middle one, you the last one? Tell me about it.
Oh gosh, I'm in the middle, man. I was like the one they left at the beach, and they're like driving away, and they're like,
Joe Dirt.
Micah Nicholes.
Right.
I don't think that happened. It probably did though, actually. So yeah, I'm a fourth oldest, third youngest, so basically in the middle there.
Yeah. I'm the youngest of six.
Okay,
And so
yeah.
I didn't get left anywhere. I was the one that I caught heat from everybody else, okay, except my mom wasn't leaving me any place. And yeah, but my middle brother, of course, that they always talk about, they would be the ones that get left at the beach and everywhere else. Like Dr. Ben said, like the saga of Joe Dirt. So let's dig into some real estate talk though. I love what you're doing. I know there's a lot of agents that could benefit a lot from this, okay? And I'm going to point something out that you said already that I think is really important for an agent to look at when they're trying to figure out how they factor into what they're trying, the niche they're trying to factor in to be able to accomplish that next level of success. You looked at what your pain was. And when you were looking at what your pain was, you saw a solution in that, right? And that's how you got to where you are. Tell us a little bit about that.
When you mean just that pain, that financial kind of struggle?
So you got into investing
Oh,
and your entree into investing, you were, okay, I want to be able to find more opportunities. I want to be able to uncover more opportunities. I need to be able to help people at the same time that I'm helping my investment portfolio and everything. And that kind of led to where you are right now.
absolutely. Yep. Yeah, really, actually, so I bought my first two properties. I bought one fourplex. This is in rural Wisconsin. It was a fourplex. It grossed, I don't know, I think it was 1,820 bucks, and I bought it for 52,000. A
Well
good
done.
little deal. Yeah, and then a month later, the same agent broker that sold me that, he's, hey, I've got a pocket listing. Are you interested? It's a fiveplex. I know you just bought that other thing, but it's a good deal. And so I looked at it, and I think it grossed 3,200 bucks, and the guy was, I purchased it for 90.
Wow.
And I owned those two properties for a long time, and I just moonlight, repair them, kick bad tenants out, just all the things. And I just built up a bunch of equity. And those two properties actually are what enabled me to that I own now, which is US Lead List. It's funny actually, 'cause cleaning up that next level, just real estate really helped me help out in real estate as well. And but yeah, as far as what we're doing with business and how that integrates into helping other people, our company, what we're really experts better than anyone else, I believe, at is aligning death and real estate ownership. And 90% of people, when I say those two things, their head goes to probate.
Right.
While that's true, that's not the whole picture. And
Agreed.
we're looking at basically every asset around that, and that's what makes us better than everyone else. And yeah, just tactfully trying to make a meaningful connection with those people in that challenging, logistically heavy, emotionally overwhelming time. And yeah, just do it with tact and show up and actually help people. And that said, I help tons of people. Not everyone wants your help in that situation. It's not, don't get rosy eyes. This is a magic thing or something here. We grind and do the work, but it's good work and it pays dividends.
Yeah, yeah. Makes perfect sense. And I want to make sure that our listeners have some context about exactly what we're talking about. And so why don't you tell us a little bit about what is USLeadList?
Sure.
And then we'll get to some deeper questions after that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Basically, at its core, we're just data aggregators. So we bring in debt data. Like I said, that's what we're best with. And we do other things, but that's really our focus. So we bring it in from 6 separate databases, overlap it, look at, make sure that verify all the information. And then we are basically own the national data set for the entire nation and update that on a monthly cadence. And so we're just meshing those two in the best way possible. The challenging thing about data is that it's messy. And it,
Right.
it's the government,
Yep.
Each county has their own separate system across the entire nation. And so there's a lot of you have to back up before you can go forward. And so we have to account for a lot of things to get to this. And what it is further that we do is every month we generate a national list of what we call inheritance leads. And like I said, we're lining up death and data, and we do a ton of append work on that. And what I mean by append is we add additional information, spouse, if it's vacant, if there's late taxes, additional relatives, and we skip trace all of those people, and just do like a white glove service for this data because it represents it's an evergreen great opportunity for anyone in the real estate space.
Yeah. So when we first talked to you, I just loved what you were doing. So you mentioned something about data. I'm going to say something about that I think is one of the most critical things that you bring to the table in this situation, because data is so many different places and there's so many different things you can sign up for, and you can get it from here and get it from there, but you got to get it normalized so you can use it. And that's where it stalls out with most real estate agents. They can get it that first time, or they can start working through it, or they can get some of it. But as soon as they have to get the rest of it, as soon as they have to get the other parts, as soon as they have to get the details, they don't have time to do that. And what you've done in the normalizing the data and getting it into your system so that it's digestible for the agents, you've eliminated so much of that work that they can actually just come in and do the part that they really thought they were going to be able to do. They're going to be able to just come in and get to it and start helping people out. Am I missing something there?
No, you're exactly right. On a singular scale, what we do with data, it's not as complicated. A human can go in and marry those. The problem is, while it's simple to do on a small scale, it's a lot harder on a big scale. And then you take where the most important job is, right? It's a real estate investor. I have people who chase leads. That's their job. Because I have to focus on the data over here. And if you're not out there prospects and putting them in your pipeline, filling your funnel, you're missing out on all the meat on that.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. So let me say this really quick. You're in Tarpon Springs, so you're about 30 minutes, 40 minutes north of us, right? I'm in the middle of a storm right now, so that power's already went off. It's already flickered twice on me, but I can see the sunshine coming in through your window right there, and you're only 30 minutes away. I love that.
It's funny. I just heard a couple cracks of thunder and fast approaching my way.
Yeah, yeah. So by the time that your internet connection is unstable, mine should be fine. Okay, so Dr. Ben, I'm going to let you ask him a couple questions because I know you've got things that you want to talk to him about. But before I do that, Mike, I got one more question or one more thing for us to dig into. So you're actively doing this. So you're already succeeding with this. So this isn't some magical thing, that product that you're selling to people and you're going to dump a whole bunch of data on them. And then as an agent, they're going to have to go figure all this out. You actually take your own product, right? And you work with some people, with some investors specifically, and you and your partner do transactions with this exact data, right?
That's exactly right. And actually my partner is an agent. And so
Good.
really what we found is to be able to approach the whole picture, not just investments and not just the agency side of it, is all of those things are appropriate answers to someone's problem potentially when they're trying to figure this whole thing out. And it works both ways. And yeah, my business usually just ends up helping me grind out maybe another data set that I want. Maybe this little thing isn't working, so we adjust it. So it's really good feedback for me to scale, use, adjust our product itself. And yes, absolutely, it's working. We just got 2 listings this last week from a mailer that we sent out. And yeah, the thing though, and I'll just further, is these leads are the best for people who like have good systems around follow-up. And I
Absolutely.
know you guys really work on that, right? And that's pretty tantamount in this business. If you don't have something that kind of holds that for you, all of your profit leaks out. And I'm just being totally honest. Like that is not my specialty. That's not my skill set. But my agent partner, he is amazing, one of the best I've ever seen at having a rock solid system to take people on the top of, hey, my name is Lou, all the way down to getting a contract signed. And yeah, we work really well in that regard because he's so helpful on that aspect.
Yeah, I love that. And you're exactly right. You hit the nail on the head there as far as generating leads or having a list of leads that an agent can take advantage of is great. It's a great asset to have. You definitely need that follow-up. So I appreciate you saying that. That was going to be my very next question is, okay, I'm an agent and I'm listening and I'm saying, okay, this sounds good. I think I want to give this a shot and I'm going to reach out to him after I finish listening to this episode. Once they have those leads, can you give me, maybe you can just take some of Lou's experience there. Can you share a little bit with our agents? Gosh, if you have these, this is probably your next step maybe that you want to take. You mentioned a mailer a second ago. Can you just give us a little bit
Yeah.
insight into
Yeah.
that?
So our approach is this. We generate the list on the 5th of every month. On that day, we are printing those out into mailers. And our mailer is the most vague mailer ever. And people actually, they're like, you can't send that. You don't send this. They're like, I get like hate email about this letter that I sent because they don't actually think that I send it. So if your listeners want to send me hate email too, that's okay. But
Love
literally
it.
all it says is, hey, I have a question about your property. Give me a call. And I leave my number. And I don't actually leave my number. And my agent doesn't take these calls either. We actually have an acquisitions guy who picks up the phone, and he's just his whole purpose is to create rapport as fast as possible, ask good questions, and book an appointment. We don't want price. We don't want to talk about anything. We like our whole approach is I'm sure so many people say this on your podcast, but real estate is a person business. It's not a property business. And so
Yeah.
we just make our whole experience about how can we understand the person who we're dealing with, their problem the best, and what is the best solution that we can come up with as a team to solve that problem. That's it. And so we create those opportunities, yes, by sending that letter, and we actually send a sequence of letters. And they vary. There's that one, and there's a more professional looking one. There's a postcard. And so I like to multiple touches with different kind of avatars that I'm trying to attract. And then we actually cold call the spouses. What makes this lead a good lead is there's someone who's no longer with us. And so obviously it doesn't make sense if you're going to do calling to call the deceased person. But their spouse does have a real problem. Usually it's emotional, but it's also logistical too. And so they're like just trying to sort out what they're going to do, how they're
Right.
going to do it. And again, this really comes back to follow up. Those 2 listings that I mentioned earlier, we got those initial touches. I think I said I got them from the mailing, but that's not true. We got their initial touches, I think it was 6 months ago and 9 months ago. And these people, they were just still reeling. They just
Right.
didn't know what to do. And they just again, our approach is how can we help you?
Mhm.
And people remember that when you show up and that's your one and sole purpose, how can we help? And really not have any ask in that, just what do you want to do? Because I'm here for you and with this sense and with your real estate. And so we just kept on following up. And finally, both of them popped in the same week and it was just a random overlap. But yeah, I was talking about calling the spouses. So we cold call the spouses. We want to connect with them. And what is that behind you? Sorry, I'm distracted.
It's
It's like a I'm just out on a covered deck here.
I get
And
it
this is like a
now.
shade that comes down and I'm being attacked by the wind here.
Yeah.
I'm gonna put that out as a ghost, right? We know there's so many ghost videos right now. That's going on Reddit.
Yeah, for sure,
Right.
for sure.
Um, yeah, and yeah, we connect with the spouse. Again, it's just, hey, this call's out of the blue. I'm curious if you're thinking about selling your property. If basically the answer is yes, no, or maybe from there. And if it's yes or maybe, it's just tell me about your situation. Help me understand what's going on here. When you're dealing with these kind of deaths, for me, I don't recommend talking about, when you're dealing with these kinds of leads, I don't recommend talking about the death.
Yeah.
I know and some people maybe take that as disingenuous. I don't want to insert myself into a place where I don't belong. And
Mhm.
though I'm targeting these people because I want to help them, I let them fill the gaps. And normally if you're doing this right, within a couple sentences, they're like, yeah, I lost my dad. And you're just like, and not pretend, don't fake it. Everyone knows what it feels like to lose someone that they love and not ever have a chance to get it back. And so just, man, I am so sorry. With all the sympathy in your heart, because that's how you should respond anyway. And then go from there. Just let them try and understand. So that's most of our outreach that we're doing with these folks as far as logistically. We play around with texting. That's become pretty hard to navigate those waters legally. So we've really backed off on that.
Mhm.
But yeah, direct mail and cold calls. That's what I would recommend.
Yeah. And so texting is going to get more difficult on January 1st, 2025, by the way. And so hopefully everybody listening understands that there's some tightening up that's going to happen with all of that. And they're paying really close attention to how to move their business forward the right way, because that's only going to get more difficult. And you bring up a good point there, right? The method of communication, the platform that you're communicating through really needs to match the lead that's coming in, right? And man, I just think texting would be a really tough one in this particular situation. Man, it's so easy for things to get screwed up in texting when you're
Yeah.
having great conversations about shit that doesn't matter. It's easy to mess up, and this matters every second of this. Yeah, that's it. That's a great point. Dr. Ben?
Yeah, for sure. I know Matt will send me a text message at 1 a.m. and it'll be like, hey, how's it going? And I'm like, man, he must be ticked off at me. But this all leads into my next point, and this will be my last question. Of course, I want to get and make sure everybody knows how do they get in touch with you. But a lot of lead sources will sell leads or a list of leads to a lot of agents at the same time.
Yep.
And we don't necessarily want 100 different agents reaching out to someone who just went through a tragedy,
Right.
the same thing. And so, can you give me a little bit of an idea as an agent? Gosh, if I'm working with USLeadList, what's my area look like, or what does that process look like?
Yeah, and I think this is only relevant because this is a firm belief of mine. And two, I've worked with all of our competitors, so I have a pretty good sense, but it's only a relevant question if we're getting data that no one else is, right? And I believe that we are and doing a better job than any other data aggregator, specifically around this space. But if just to be fully honest, if some folks call me right now, they're like, I'm in the Philly market. That's where I work. That's the only place where I do business. I'm going to have to turn them away because we only sell 3 licenses per county. And that's how we keep track. That's how we divvy it all up. And so there's a good amount of counties and places around the US that just aren't available.
Right.
And it's funny, one of my friends, now mentor, um, when I first heard about that you guys like didn't you sold stuff out. I didn't believe it. I actually had someone else like secret shop you and call back and ask if he could get that county too. And you guys said the same thing to him. I couldn't believe it. That was insane. But it's true. Yeah. So if the area is sold out, you can't get it. We have a wait list for that and that's available. But yeah, we cap it at 3 sales.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's great. Yeah, sorry, man, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Yeah, I think that's killed. One of the things that I did in my offices is I did not allow, and allow is the tough word because they're independent contractors, but I did not allow people to overlap on their farming inside of a neighborhood unless they agreed to collaborate with each other. Because what I didn't want was 38 people trying to market one neighborhood because they all wanted to be seen as the expert in that neighborhood, and the 16 neighborhoods around that not getting any attention at all, and the competitors being able to eat up that entire area. I also didn't want somebody brand new coming in, sending out a postcard on day one, and somebody else that's been there 10 years putting blood, sweat, and tears into the community, the same sign, helping that new person get that business. And then the third thing is, I believe that it makes the competition a little bit more difficult whenever two or three people from the same office are going on a listing presentation to the same property. And if everybody's doing what they're supposed to be doing, you just end up with a struggle in the middle of that. Now, a lot of brokers aren't in favor of that because they want to stay out of the middle of that because it's a tough conversation. It's not
Yeah.
easy. It's not an easy conversation to have. However, my offices were really productive. My agents really supported each other. There was a lot of times when they would come across business and they would share it with each other. It was just a really collaborative environment, and there was a high level of productivity in there. That didn't mean that they couldn't work on one of those transactions. If a brother's friend, sister's cousin called, I'm not going to stop them from getting a listing in there. But as far as actively farming it, I appreciate where you're coming from with that, with the exclusivity that you're offering, right? The last thing that somebody wants, especially in your situation, is 15 people from the same office or from the same company calling these people that just lost somebody and saying, hey, what are you going to do with your property? The same thing goes for if a property expires and 10 people from the same office call up and say, hey, this is Matt with Matt's Realty. I just wanted to whatever. And the seller is like, hey, I'm all good. And they hang up. And 10 minutes later, the next person calls because they're calling from the same list. Hey, this is Ben from Matt's property. They're like, why the hell am I going to use Matt's property? Are y'all not on the same page with what you're trying to accomplish? There's no collaborate, right? So I get where you're coming from. Absolutely, positively love it. And I think it's a huge benefit to anybody that would use your service.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Yep, completely agree. So I know that there are people here who are listening and they're saying, I do want to use that service. And so I want to make sure that they know how to get in touch with you, how to connect with you. Or if they just want to meet a really cool guy, or maybe they got an awesome fishing boat and they need somebody to go out there with them.
I will help anyone fish at any time. It would be my pleasure. Yeah, probably best two ways to get a hold of me is you just go through my website funnel. It helps me figure out where your areas are, if they're sold out. So email and phone number and name, and then just say you heard it on this podcast. But otherwise, if someone wants to communicate to me directly, my email, it's Micah, Micah at USLeadList.com. So the only thing you can probably mess up there is my name, which it's okay, everyone does. But yeah, those are the two best channels. I'd love to connect with anyone who's thinking, hey, maybe that we could have a conversation and see if this is a fit. And yeah, absolutely, that'd be a pleasure.
Perfect. Everything that you just said, we'll make sure we put it in the links in the description below, guys. So if you're listening to this, it's already there. Just go down there and click on it and reach out to him and connect. Promise you won't regret it. Micah, thank you so much for coming on the show. We really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, guys. Great conversation. And maybe at some point I can come back. We can talk about something new.
Yeah, I think that would be really cool.
All right.
Matt, I'm glad you're here too, man.
Thanks, Ben. I'm glad you're in Appalachia, back in Appalachia for a visit. You got to be having a good time.
Is my twang coming out? Marshall's already been stung by 2 yellow jackets, so we know we're in the mountains.
All right,
but,
you know you're in the country.
That's exactly right. So anyway, guys, we appreciate it. Micah, thank you again. We bring on amazing guests just like Micah, because Brokers Open Podcast is not just about open houses, Matt.
About open minds. Thanks a lot, guys. We appreciate you tuning in. Micah, thanks so much for coming in and sharing with us.
Thank you.